everybody, and welcome back to another episode of DemoPOD, the Demolition Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Marr, alongside the stars of the show, former three-time WWE World Tag Team Champions, and of course, WWE Hall of Famers. They are Ax and Smash, Eadie, Barry Darsow. How we doing tonight, fellas?
Very good, Ryan.
Good to see you again, Ryan.
It's good to see you guys again as well, and it always is. And I always have to remark on how you're always so calm, cool, and collected, because I understand you guys had a pretty stressful weekend. Supposed to make a big appearance out in Texas, and weather had other ideas, huh?
We were looking forward to it and meeting all the fans. There was a good buzz about the appearances, and Barry's flight got canceled up in that Midwest area from all those fires from Canada. So we both got stuck at the airport for a while. So then they decided, there's no sense in having one demolition show up. So they were kind enough. We're going to push that back in October.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal. I drove 4 hours to Detroit, and I get there 2 hours early. And I get there and everything's, I'm checking my flights on the way out there and everything's good. I get there to the counter and all of a sudden they go, "Oh yeah, your flight's not till tomorrow morning, 11 hours from now." And it was like, holy crap, and then how much to get my connection in Dallas? They said, "Well, you got 45 minutes. I'm like, you can't do that in Dallas. And it was just like the whole thing. And I hated to cancel it, but I couldn't do it. So I drove 4 hours home. So it was about a 10-hour day for nothing.
And it's funny. I don't think either one of you ever thought that in your retirement years you'd have to be dealing with that grind. But it is a different mindset, right? Because years ago, when you had to be in these towns and 300, 350 days a year, there was probably a little bit different kind of autopilot that kicked in, right? If something got delayed, you'd be like, well, what do? I got to figure something out. Now, it's at least nice to be able to call somebody and they can go, all right, we'll just have you back in October. It's a little bit of a different mindset, right?
Well, but you never want to disappoint the fans. And like we always said, if it wasn't for them, there'd be no demolition. So we were disappointed that we couldn't go, but we understood. I mean, there's nothing you can do about natural disasters like fires or tornadoes or hurricanes. So you can't beat yourself up on it.
Yeah, normally you're going out a little bit earlier and you got a backup plan or something, but when it's late at night, we weren't going to get into the town until 12 o'clock that night, Bill?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that makes it a little bit tougher when you don't have any backup plans.
Yeah, and like you said, even you're not just at the mercy of the weather, Barry. You had pointed out that turnover in Dallas. I mean, 45 minutes. I've had that over the years, like doing different comedy clubs where, like Reno, for example, there would be no direct flights from Newark or Philly to Reno. So it'd be like, okay, you got to go to Colorado or you got to go to Chicago. I remember one time there was a turnaround in O'Hare that I had that was like an hour. And you guys know how huge O'Hare is. It's like, I felt like the McAllister family in Home Alone, like running through the airport trying to get it. But I want to give those guys that you were supposed to appear for a plug. You're going to be back with them in October, like you said. But these guys are really cool. They've done something pretty awesome. They took the old WWF ice cream bars that were iconic throughout the 1990s. Even if people weren't wrestling fans, they were a big hit on the Good Humor truck. And I see Barry going through the vault there. He's looking around for something. But Bulletproof Studios is the name of the company. And they made these replica display WWF ice cream bars that are really cool looking. Dan's going to throw them up on the screen right now. Right now, you can get Ax and Smash. They're front and center on the promo. I love the stand that they're in.
Yeah.
You also see there's Papa Shango and Shotzi Blackheart. They have their own stands. But your stands are the demolition helmets. That is the coolest thing. And it's a great conversation piece. Great collector's item, and they're made by Bulletproof Studios. So we want you to go to axandsmash.com. Maybe this was kind of a godsend that they couldn't appear this weekend. You can place your orders to get those ice cream bars. There'll be a direct link, and then get them. And then when they're back in October, you can go get them signed, and the creator will be right there. Of all the cool, unique items that you guys get pitched with, this had to be pretty fun to have this come across, right?
Well, it's nice. And like you say, the helmet stand really sets it off.
Yeah.
It's rather unique.
Yeah. No, it's definitely cool. And the guy who masterminded this, Very cool guy. And yeah, it's a shame that it didn't work out this past weekend.
Yeah,
But
we hate to miss shots, that's for sure.
yeah, I know, but unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, what would I guess that how often did it happen in your heyday? Not for you guys necessarily specifically, but these acts of God, these crazy snowstorms. I mean, there has to be some leniency, right? Sometimes guys just get stuck, right?
Well, very rarely, fortunately, even if you're even if you're there late, it's better than than missing the event. But I don't recall in all the years that we were working more than 2 or 3 times. Would you say, Barry?
Yeah, we've made pretty much all the shots, but I don't know if you remember the one time San Francisco, we were going to go out there and we were going to be in the Cow Palace, and they had the earthquake. We were supposed to be there the next day. So we had to cancel that one. Another time we were going to LA Sports Arena, and the riots were happening out there. Remember that? We were just coming in that day before it all started, and we had to stop and get out of there. And then another time, we were doing promos at the Ramada Inn in Indianapolis, and that jet flew through the Ramada.
What?
Remember? Yeah, we were flying in to do it. Yeah, we were flying in to do promos that morning, and a jet, he ended up ejecting out, cleared everything, away from the homes in downtown. The jet flew right into the Ramada Inn.
So it was a military jet then?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Wow. That story, I mean, aside from that shock aspect of it too, I wasn't aware that they did promos at hotels. That's interesting too. But
yeah, so that's just a couple of them. I mean, there's more kind of like that.
When you talk about the San Francisco earthquake, did the whole show get canceled, or it was just it affected your guys' travel?
The whole town, everything was closed.
Yeah,
the bridges went down. Everything went down.
Yeah. I think everything was shut down.
Wow. That whole thing about the jet and the Ramada, I was not expecting that. That's crazy. That's something I'll have to check out later.
But here's a good one here though. So Bill and I we fly in. I think we flew into Newark. We were supposed to be in the Nassau Coliseum that night, and that morning we were going to do promos. Was it at the Marriott by the Nassau? Is that what it was?
I believe so. Yeah.
So we fly in real early. Rainstorm. Floods all over the roads. It took us like 8 hours to get to Nassau, and we missed our promos, missed everything. We just got there in enough time to get in the ring. That's how long it took us. We got into Newark that early. So the roads were flooded, dead stop traffic. I mean, it was brutal.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Newark to Nassau commute, even without an act of God, could be torture. That Belt Parkway construction that's been going on since 1959. But now it's
the same flagman standing.
Indeed. I got to tell you guys, you'll be very happy to hear this. Ever since we've been sending the questions directly to axandsmash.com, we have been getting an influx of incredible questions. So we just want to tell all of the fans, again, whether you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio, or watching us on YouTube, which we love, make sure you go to axandsmash.com. If you go to the bottom of the screen, you can submit questions and have your shot of having that question being asked right here on the DemoPod. There's the graphic right there. We want to hear from you. Visit axandsmash.com, submit those questions. I think it's time we open the mailbag now for a little bit. We got some great questions that came our way from literally all over the world. We're going to try to dive into some of them right now. And once again, we appreciate everybody who reaches out. Some of the questions that we get asked, about the face paint and how'd they do this, how'd they do that. These things have been covered in past episodes. So please don't get discouraged. If your question does not get asked, there's a good chance that it's something we've discussed already, and you could just go back into the archived episodes and learn all about it. So I think the first question we're going to start with, it's got a little bit of a hometown feel for Bill. It's from Paul from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he writes, Ax and Smash, I'm a longtime fan of both of you gentlemen, and Ryan, you're the best wrestling podcast host in the game.
Wow.
Thanks. Wow.
I agree.
So we know he's got great taste. Speaking of best, I'm curious if the guys have any stories of Bruno Sammartino. Ax, having grown up in the Pittsburgh area, you know how much Bruno was king. And then you went on to become the masked superstar in the territory where Bruno was king. Would love to hear any experiences you guys have had with him. So let's talk about the living legend, Bruno Sammartino.
He was iconic. I mean, he was the king of Pittsburgh. That was a wrestling fan, just loved him. At that time, they had live events. I think it was 90-minute show on Saturday, and everybody, all the neighbors, and everybody loved Bruno. And when he'd come in the town, in the area, I mean, the buildings or the stadiums would fill up. And I hadn't realized he was that well over in New York area either, because I didn't, when you're in the little town that I was in, Brownsville, about 30 miles south of Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh was the New York for us.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't realize he was worldwide known. But I remember all the villains, Crusher, Wasowski, and George the Animal Steel, and there was a German. But all these guys would come in and try to knock him off the top, but nobody was successful. So, he was iconic. And then, of course, Barry and I got to know him when we were in the territory of New York because he was a commentator. And I think he had a falling out with Vince for a period of time.
Who hasn't?
But he was well respected. Respected.
Yeah, and I first met Bruno, like Bill was saying, in the locker room. Somehow, I don't know if it was the commission or whatever. They said, when's your birthday? And I said 10/6/59. And Bruno goes, October 6th. That's when my birthday is. So we kind of had that, to get to know each other, and then we got to be friends after that too. So that was kind of neat. He was a good guy, though.
That's really cool. And Bill, I'm surprised to hear. So you hadn't met Bruno prior to you getting to WWE when he was a commentator? There was no run-ins?
No.
Wow.
When he was running, I think he owned part of the Pittsburgh territory. And my partner, Guido Mongol, the guy that broke me in and also broke Larry Zbyszko in, bought it from Bruno. And at that time, they hadn't run any summer events. Well, Guido had invested 90% of his money, so he had to recoup it. And they thought that there was going to be only winter events. And, Pittsburgh doesn't draw. They never tried before. But it was successful. And then after that, they ran year-round. But I never met Bruno until later because he wasn't around the territory when Guido owned it.
But I'm sure you guys had lots to talk about because, like you said, that background from Pittsburgh. And years later, Pittsburgh is just so steeped in wrestling tradition, not just because of guys like you and Bruno and Larry Zbyszko, but then Kurt Angle. I mean, arguably one of the best ever from there as well. So Pittsburgh has that rich wrestling history.
Well, and then when I was down in Mid-South, that's when I met his son. And, David traveled with him a little bit. He wasn't there very long, but I first met him there. So I get to talk to Bruno about him a little bit too.
That's so cool. And Bill, I like how you touched on, your grandparents would be watching and they'd have these different ethnic guys. A German guy would come in. It's so funny to me how wrestling from that time period, it really kind of thrived on that. There was almost this, I don't want to call it ethnic warfare, but we just saw with the World Cup, right? Everybody's got, people that have a Spanish background. They're American citizens, but they're wearing the Spain soccer jerseys. Wrestling, especially in those territory days, there was so much of that. I remember when I was a train conductor for New Jersey Transit Railroad, I had a passenger who was a ticket broker. And I mean, nowadays that job is pretty much obsolete, but he said he started his business thanks to Bruno Sammartino and Pedro Morales, because he said whenever WWF would come to town and Madison Square Garden's box office would open, he would go buy a bunch of tickets. And he said, if Pedro Morales was on the card, I'd go to the Puerto Rican neighborhoods. He said, and if Bruno was on the card, which he always was, I'd go to Little Italy. And it's just fascinating to think about. That's how it went back then. I mean, people would go and he was the pride of Italian Americans, Bruno.
Well, it was up till recently when they had the Iron Sheik, of course. They had different ethnic groups were bad guys. And then you have the all-American hero, which was either Bruno or Hulk Hogan, going against that evil person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been up till recently, but I think they've sort of lost that concept right now. but it would still draw.
Yeah.
I mean, because like you said, all these soccer fans, I mean, they might like each other normally, but not the day of the game.
No, definitely
Not
not.
the day of the game.
No. And people who don't like soccer even get in on that whole tribal thing. I mean, I know people that don't know anything about, MLS, Major League Soccer, but they got those USA soccer jerseys on. I just wanted to throw in about Bruno. I was born in 1983, so he was already pretty much kind of out of it. I started watching wrestling in 1988, but I had the Bruno Sammartino LJN action figure. And I became very interested in him when Mick Foley's book came out, when Mick Foley wrote his autobiography, and it was just blowing up. And of course, the mainstream media had to give it its props, because, wrestlers always had that negative connotation. This dumb wrestler wrote a book. Yeah, he did. And it was incredible. So then I was like, I want to get my hands on other wrestling books. And there really weren't many at the time. But Bruno Sammartino wrote an autobiography back in 1990, and it was called An Autobiography of Wrestling's Living Legend, Bruno Sammartino, with Bob Michelucci and Paul McCullough. It came out in 1990. I remember getting my hands on it and being fascinated because he kept kayfabe alive. He actually came right out and said, he goes, I don't know about today's product, but I know I never went into a match thinking that I was going to win or lose. I knew I was going to win or try my best, and I thought that was cool. But what was more fascinating about him was the life that he lived, about, escaping Nazi-occupied Italy as a child and coming to the United States as a sick little boy weighing 90 pounds. And then he grew into that mountain of a man. So the book is still in publication. And if you have a chance to get your hands on it, I highly recommend it, because what a story. And Bruno gets to tell it. So that's awesome. Before we go to the next question, I wanted to touch on something that just came across a little while ago to me. There's some news going on in the wrestling world right now. Vince McMahon's lawsuit is going to be privately arbitrated. This, of course, was the lawsuit that changed the landscape of how WWE was looking for a little bit there. And now the rumors are circulating where people are saying, well, we don't think that he's going to return in a position of power, but the door is open for him to return on screen. I personally don't see that ever happening. I can't imagine Vince McMahon coming back into a position where he's not in power. But I was thinking, you guys have those Legends contracts. I mean, that could be a little bit of an angle there. I mean, do you have one more demolition decapitation left in you if Vince McMahon makes his return? Or
Oh, you know what? To be very, very honest with you, I sort of thought this was going to happen when it originally came out.
mm-hmm.
It's fortunate that he has an enormous amount of money, so he can afford to pay out whatever he needs to pay out
Mm-hmm.
to keep it quiet. It's unfortunate it happened to the young lady.
Mm-hmm.
I've said this many times. I honestly don't. I've got 2 daughters. I don't know how I would react if it was my daughter.
Absolutely.
And I'll leave it at that.
There you go.
And the worst part of this whole thing, he's probably going to buy the WWE back again. He'll be the boss.
Oh, we'll be free agents again.
Yeah.
We'll be seeing that graphic, Demolition is all elite.
Just so they don't take the rings back now, right? Can they do that?
Just tell them you pawned it.
I've already lost mine. I misplaced mine. No, I don't.
We're kidding.
I honestly can't see TKO wanting that kind of publicity. I know if I had a company, I'd just as soon move on. So
Yeah.
They can do whatever they want to do, of course.
Absolutely. No, without question. Speaking of questions, we're going to go back into the mailbag. We got one from Andy Walker in Chesterfield, United Kingdom. Did you guys ever witness Bruce Pritchard get mad and chew anyone out? And what were your thoughts on the brother love gimmick? There he is.
I don't recall him getting mad. I mean, do you, Barry?
No, I really like Bruce. He's a good friend of ours. I've never seen him get upset at anybody. He's always been very nice to us.
Yeah.
The brother love gimmick, at first when I saw it, I went, what the heck is this? And then after, I really liked the brother love, because that was a heat-getting son of a gun right there.
It was.
And he did a hell of a job at it.
Well, it was during the time frame where there was a lot of TV evangelists, and not all of them were Lord followers. They were money grabbing.
Mm-hmm.
So he brought that point out, and I think he he did a great job on that.
And I still call him Brother Bruce, whenever I see him. Hey, Brother Bruce, how you doing?
I can't get inside Andy's head and figure out why he asked that question, but I do think that over the last year or so since that WWE Unreal show came out, which the new season just dropped, I believe, today. I'll have to check some of that out. But, Bruce has been there so long and he's worked all over the places. Even when he left WWE, I mean, he was a part of Global and on ESPN there for that year and a half. He worked in TNA. He is a powerful guy. He's got a lot of tenure with the company. And there was a scene from Unreal where his real name's escaping me, but the guy who wrestled as Abyss in TNA, he's now an agent for WWE. And there was a scene on Unreal where the match that he was producing went over and he was real nervous about how Bruce was going to react. And there was a little bit of tension. But again, that's reality TV. At the end of the day, WWE Unreal still is a reality television show. So they're going to take what's filmed and they're going to edit it and position it in ways to get their narrative across. So I don't know if that's maybe what Andy was thinking, but I never saw Bruce or heard of Bruce being a guy that would flip out. But to your point, Bill, that brother love character, as a young child watching that, I didn't know that's what he was going for. But when you look back, I mean, on those days, you're right. Every other week, you'd be flipping on the channel and there'd be some kind of big scandal with one of these televangelists. And most of the time, it was like a financial fraud type of situation. Sometimes they were supporting workers of the world's oldest profession. They'd go away for a while and then they'd come back and I've been forgiven. So I think the brother love gimmick did such a great job of making fun of that without offending anybody. They didn't bring Christianity into it. It was really masterfully done.
But, and then what I heard too, and I don't know how true this is, but I heard that he was just with Vince and the committee in the back, and he started talking like that. And then Vince went, well, wait a minute here. Keep going. And then that's how that gimmick was created, because he did that in the back. So.
Well, going back to what we talked about earlier with the ethnic groups, this is another, play on the stuff that's in the news.
Yeah.
And bring it to the forefront, take advantage of it. And I'm not sure they're doing that.
No, that's actually an excellent point. But I think right now it's a lot more difficult to do that. And not just in wrestling. I mean, like across all entertainment platforms, because everything is so instant and the feedback is so instant. I mean, you look at Hulk Hogan, Sergeant Slaughter, the whole Iraqi war conflict. Yeah, that made the news, but the news used to be on at 5 o'clock, maybe 6 o'clock, 11 o'clock. You'd read the newspaper, magazines. Nowadays, you do something on live television, people are reacting within 30 seconds, letting you know that they're pissed off. And then it's a groundswell. So I do think you got to be a little more careful now.
Well, sometimes it's okay to be pissed off. Maybe you get some heat there.
You don't have to tell me that.
A lot of the things don't have heat right now.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. We'll get into some of that a little bit more, but about Bruce, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of his brothers as well. And his older brother, Dr. Tom Pritchard, great worker. Complete opposite personalities, even though they look similar. But I enjoy Bruce. And hey, I will go out and say this definitively. This podcast, as well as so many others, would not exist if it wasn't for Conrad Thompson and Bruce Pritchard. They really changed the game with the Something to Wrestle podcast. And I love how Bruce, even now being back in such a powerful role in WWE, he's kept that podcast going. And there's been times where he's had to step away and have fill-in hosts. That's understandable. But he really opens the curtain more so than even WWE Unreal has, I believe. There's something about Bruce, his way of telling a story. He's great. I was also a big fan, and I don't know if you guys saw this. It's funny you mentioned he was backstage talking like Brother Love, and Vince was like, go with it. I think Vince was just a huge Bruce fan because he's been able to do a couple different things. There was Rio Rogers, which we have a picture of, and that's Vince and Bruce as Rio.
I never saw that.
Oh, I'll have to send you some clips from YouTube. It's basically him just doing his Dusty Rhodes impersonation. That's all it is. He gave himself the name Rio Rogers. And then for a few weeks there too, and this drove me nuts as a kid, he was commentating as the Wizard. And he was just doing an impersonation of the Grand Wizard, but you never saw him on camera. So Vince McMahon would be there and he'd be like, my commentating partner, the Wizard. And I'm like, now looking back on that, I'm like, these guys were just goofing off and putting it on TV. It's awesome, actually. But I'm a big Brother Love Bruce Pritchard fan. And I hope we get to see a Brother Love cameo again soon. It seems like every couple years they'll bring him out for something, and I think it would be cool to make a return to Brother Love. We're going to keep moving on with these questions. This one actually made me laugh out loud, and I think you guys will enjoy it too. It's short and to the point. It's from Larry Reynolds in Charlotte, North Carolina. Barry, did you do any research or interview truck drivers while doing the Blacktop Bully gimmick?
No, I didn't do any research. The only thing I did was drink beer with Bobby Eaton and Arn Anderson in the garage and became the Blacktop Bully, and that was it.
It's so cool.
Yeah,
That's intense research.
Yeah, but you know what's funny was I didn't think that they were going to go this far where they put me in jail and all that. But one day they came out and said, "Yeah, we got a truck for you." And I said, "I get to drive this thing?" And they said, "No, no, no, no." Oh, they had a truck parked out there, and I got in there, and I made like I was driving it and everything. But I really wanted to take that sucker because it was beautiful. So that's the only thing I knew about trucks.
You can't drive the truck. You can only take suplexes in the back of it. That's all.
Right.
I have it. I laughed because when I heard the name Larry Reynolds in Charlotte, North Carolina, I just imagined like a real truck driver asking that question, like, "Hey, why didn't anybody ask me?" But you did nail that stereotype of what a truck driver from that time frame would look like, would talk like. And I can't tell you how many times traveling with my parents, taking that ride down 95 to Florida, and we'd stop at like a Shoney's or one of those big truck rest areas, and you'd see a guy and be like, "Oh wow, that's the Blacktop Bully." Like, the hat, sitting there eating meatloaf, angry at the world,
Big old belly on him with sunglasses. Yeah.
You were still in good shape as the Blacktop
Yeah.
Bully. Come on, don't sell yourself short. Speaking of shape, that'll segue into another great question. This came from Dave in Detroit, Michigan. Bill and Barry, what was your weightlifting routine like while you were on the road? Did you use full body, high frequency workouts to stay fresh, or did you follow another approach? I'm fascinated to hear about this.
Well, we had to worked out probably 4 times a week, wouldn't you say, Barry?
Yeah, at least, yeah.
And, there again, it depends on the injury that you have or you're getting over. But, you couldn't do heavy work. So you do repetitions and get the soreness out, get the blood flowing. But probably a whole body workout took 2 days or so. So you do, a partial, the shoulders and back, and then the chest and arms and the legs. And so it would take, out of the 4 days, you worked the whole body. Yeah.
And and it was kind of crazy because we're on the Stairmaster a lot. We'd start out on the Stairmaster for 20 minutes or whatever, and we're in the ring that long too. But that's why we're in such good shape. All the cardio we did.
I was going to ask. The cardio has to be important.
Yeah, and the Stairmaster back then was a tough deal. And like Bill was saying, you do a lot of reps, back and buys and tries, and did opposites one time, buys and tries, and the next day you do something, then the next week you change it up, but you always did high reps, 10, 15 reps.
Since I started hosting this podcast, I've been watching a lot more of your guys' work, and I was a fan of it when you guys were doing it. But now when I watch it, I have a new appreciation because I don't think you guys get enough credit for your cardio. When I watch some of these matches that you had, and I'm not talking about the iconic matches necessarily just against like the Hart Foundation and all those teams, but even watching you guys work with the enhancement talent, the amount of quick tags that you guys would do in and out of that ring. In fact, you just posted a clip yesterday on the Search and Destroy You Instagram page. Make sure you go give that a follow, where you're working against 2 enhancement talent, and it was you guys had just debuted as Demolition. Mr. Fuji's doing a promo about how he wants to sign Bam Bam Bigelow to the stable. And just Ax is axing them, Smash is smashing them, but you're doing quick tags in and out. You're giving those guys some heat. There was a lot of movement in those Demolition matches, so I know cardio had to play a big role in that. And the Stairmaster, there you go. That's perfect right there.
Well, throughout our career, I think we prided ourselves in the fact that we could go an hour if we had to. Because, as a mass superstar, I did many, many hours, and then I did many 90 minutes. So it was natural. In the territories back then, and Barry can attest to this, 45, 50-minute matches were standard. I know he went hours in tag against a number of opponents, and so did we. So it was just a matter of daily workout.
And whenever you saw us where we were tired, huffing and puffing in the ring, we were pretty much working that. In fact, I watched a few clips back and I'm going, holy crap, we got the shit knocked out of us in that match, and then we'd win, but we'd look like we were about dying when we'd win, Really, we could have won another hour. It was just that's part of what we had to make it look like. We were so beat up and so tired, but still we cheated to win, That's where the heat was.
To your point about the 45 to 60-minute matches, I think that's why the quote-unquote house show, or back in the territory days before you could watch these big things happen on TV or pay-per-view, that's why I think the houses were so packed. There's something about those kinds of matches that once they got away from that, things really changed. I mean, I even remember as a youngster going to the Meadowlands to see some house shows, and I got to watch Bret Hart versus Owen Hart, but it was billed as an Iron Man match. It was a 60-minute Iron Man match. And so there were multiple falls or whatever, but there's something about an hour-long match, the emotional roller coaster you could take those fans on, and the way that things can sway. And there's just something to it. And the fact that was the industry standard for so long and then it went away, that's very interesting. But I think that's, all forms of entertainment now. I mean, that's why TikTok is so huge and all these other things. It's a very short attention span, but kudos to you guys for being able to stay in that kind of shape for so long and do what you guys did. This one's from Ben Charlevoix in Michigan. I think we've talked about it a little bit in past episodes, but I can always talk about this because it brings back great childhood memories. This one's for Smash. What memories do you have of appearing on Family Feud as the Repo Man? Which, if you think about it, the Repo Man's the perfect gimmick for Family Feud.
I really enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun. I don't know how it got to be where I got to go on it, but Randy Savage was on there, Shawn Michaels, Papa Shango. It was a good group of guys, and we all got along good together. And it was a really good experience. I had a lot of fun.
For something like that, and I know Ray Combs, God rest his soul, was a big professional wrestling fan. He had done some work with WWE, but there's a lot of moving parts for a television show like that. There's cameramen, there's producers, there's a live studio audience. Are you guys being told by the office, especially in this era where kayfabe is still alive, like, hey, make sure you kind of follow, stay on brand, do things this way, or do they just let you kind of go about it however you want?
No, they wanted us to be the character. And not really break that character, but you had to do the show.
Yeah.
But what was amazing about that show is you don't have much time to come up with those answers, and there's no cheating involved in that. It's, when you're coming up with an answer, you only got that 10 seconds or 8 seconds or whatever it is. It's tough when you got the crowd and everything there.
It's tough for a regular person that can only just have to focus on doing the answers. Yeah. But you're doing a gimmick. I mean, I remember you going up for the what is that? It's not the fast money, but where you have to hit the buzzer, the down. And I mean, you're going up there as the Repo Man, like a thief in the night. So you're having to do all that, stay in gimmick, and then, all right, real quick trivia. Like it's not easy.
And then you're looking at Ray Combs, who's a funny son of a gun. And, he's going, just the stuff he says. I mean, it was really a lot of fun. It was good memories.
Ray Combs was a phenomenal stand-up comic. He's one of those guys that I don't think a lot of people even know that he was a stand-up comic, because that was the days of when pretty much all aspects of entertainment they pulled from stand-up. I mean, Michael Keaton, the great actor, phenomenal stand-up. Most people don't even know that that's how he started. But Ray Combs, God rest his soul, man. I mean, he's just such an entertaining guy, not afraid to play the fool. We talked about that WrestleMania 8 where he was the ring announcer and you guys chased him out of the ring after he roasted everybody. Just one of a kind talent, Ray Combs. Next question comes from Mark from Oakhurst, New Jersey. That's where my ex lives. We won't hold that against you. Do you have any good stories or memories involving Rowdy Roddy Piper?
My Piper was he was a off the wall kind of guy, but he loved the business, loved his family. One of the things I think I remember, it was him and Tony Atlas.
Boy.
And we were in, I think it was Columbus, Ohio or Cleveland, and they rented a car. and I think they totaled the car and reported it stolen or something like that. And I think it was found on a railroad track or something like that. Yeah, but no, it was Cincinnati, Ohio, and they reported it stolen. What happened? I think I don't know what they probably wrecked it and then drove it to the railroad track and left it there. But I don't know why. I don't know what the logic was behind it. But they came to the dressing area and reported it stolen. So
there must have been a little.
Plus, they were late coming to the building too.
There must have been a little alcohol involved in that somewhere, somehow.
A little bit of smoke was involved. A little bit of smoke.
But Piper was. Go ahead, Bill.
At that point, he was smoking. There was a period of time where I didn't see him without a joint in his hand.
This is Piper. You're talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know Piper was the nicest guy in the world.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. In fact, when my son was just getting in the business, it was a town outside Wisconsin on Lake Michigan. And Piper came up to me, says, "Do you mind if I talk to your son, about the business a little bit?" He went and talked to him, and he gave my son his telephone number.
Wow.
And he says, "Dakota, you call me anytime you want, any question, if you need help or whatever." That's the kind of guy he was.
And what a mutual sign of respect for him to go up to you and say, "Hey, is it okay if I talk to you?" So like who's going to tell Roddy Piper no?
Yeah. Who's going to say? But I was friends with Roddy too, so it was.
That's so cool.
But it was good.
Yeah, he's a guy that again, a lifelong fan. He's up there in that same conversation of that era of Hulk Hogan. I mean, he was there. He was the main guy. That was WrestleMania. That was rock and wrestling. I met him around 2002. He was brought in for an independent company that I was working for, Primetime Wrestling, out of Staten Island, New York. And there was a Bally's gym that was doing a grand opening, and they wanted to have a ring set up, have like 1 or 2 matches, and a Piper's Pit. And then basically the Piper's Pit was to set up that second match. And he was very, at that point in his life, subdued. He had a handler with him. Gentleman, very nice, very easy to work with. I was the ring announcer. I introduced him, which was a big thrill. But he was not the Roddy Piper that we always hear the stories about from the 80s and 90s. At that point in his life, he had calmed down. But I do say to myself, I kind of would have liked to have met that other Roddy, because from what I understand, what you saw in the locker room was not different from what was presented out in that arena. So that's always cool. This question comes to us from Atlanta, Georgia, Johnny Sinclair. For Bill, were there ever any talks about you reviving the Masked Superstar gimmick on a full-time basis after the Demolition run ended? Or did you ever have any thoughts or interest on bestowing that gimmick onto someone else? Of course, we've seen there's been multiple Mr. Wrestlings and things of that nature. Did you ever think about, leasing Masked Superstar out? Or bringing it back?
Well, not really. It's like leasing one of your kids out. So,
yeah.
I spent so much time and effort developing it. I don't know. I mean, I'm sort of very, very proud of it and protective. But Barry's aware of this fact that when I left New York, I had been approached by Ole Anderson to come back into Georgia and work, and had an opportunity to do that. But there were so many things going on, and there again, Barry went in later with WCW, which was, he can attest to the fact that there was probably 4 or 5 different cliques trying to fight for power.
Mm-hmm.
And, you got to be in this group. No, you got to be in that group. No, you got to be with us because we're going to get rid of them. So I just gone through all that BS in New York, and I didn't want to go through it again. But I did go back and forth a couple times to Japan, and I had a standing agreement with Inoki that all I had to do was make a phone call and I could get booked there. So I went back there and did the Superstar a couple times, did a couple charity events, raised money for tsunami victims and so forth. So, I could have kept it going, but I wasn't going to lease it out, no.
I mean, especially after we just talked in the last episode about your appearance with Jim Cornette on the Back to the Territories thing. I was fascinated when you had said this was a family affair, the Masked Superstar. Wasn't it your wife's grandmother who made all your masks and robes and
capes? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Had made over At one time, I had over 100 different colors and combinations.
Was she a professional seamstress, or was this just a hobby?
No, she just learned it on her own.
She
Trial
got
and
to
error.
be one though after doing 100 of them.
Well, yeah. I mean, she learned to play piano and violin by listening. She would, one of these people that could look at it, test drive it for a little bit, and master it. And my wife was sort of like that on certain things, but the grandma was really unique.
Because you were with your wife already before you had broken into the business, right?
Well, yes.
That's the
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait till we do an episode where there's a deep dive into that, because just for me as a stand-up comic that used to be a train conductor, and I remember my girlfriend at the time's father, who was a police chief, being like, "Really, this is what you're going to do? You were a school teacher that went into professional wrestling. You're an educated man. You've got this steady job, a noble job, and then." Somehow, some way, your wife's grandmother's making your masks for professional wrestling. That itself is a phenomenal story, right there. That is so cool. We got a lot of cool things coming up in the works. Make sure you go to axandsmash.com. There's a ton of great merchandise available. We had mentioned those ice cream bars from Bulletproof Studios. Order those. Those are going to go. They're just an incredible collector's piece. There's a bunch of different t-shirts on prowrestlingtees.com. You can get the link from all of that on axandsmash.com. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube channel. We got WWE SummerSlam coming up. I know I'm looking very forward to that. CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, great main event. I wanted to ask you, Barry, especially because you've stayed in the loop. Have you had contact with Cody Rhodes over the years prior?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
No.
He's just on an incredible run right now, even without being the champ. I love everything he's doing, him and Punk.
So now I never really knew Cody very well.
Okay.
Because Dustin was the one I worked with and knew Dustin.
Yeah.
But I'd met Cody and I knew Cody when he was real young.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, I just seen him, it's probably been quite a few years now when I said hi to him. But
yeah,
he's so busy you can't talk to him.
Yeah. No,
I mean,
it's
now CM Punk I've talked to a few times, and I really like him. He's a really, really good guy.
Yeah, I know him a little bit when he was on the Indies before he went up to WWE, and like you said, really nice guy. And I've gotten to follow his transitions. It's weird when you knew these guys when they were like 20-something-year-old kids, and now you're watching him as the elder of WWE. He is the champion, but a lot of people go, "Oh, well, he's 47 years old." I'm like, yeah, but he's doing the best work ever. And I just think this entire SummerSlam card from top to bottom, match quality is really, really exciting. And I'm looking forward to that. We have some cool things coming up, though. Like I said, I was just texting with the Warlord the other night. So after we finish recording this, I am going to send him a text message with a recording date. And if he says no, I want you guys to give him hell.
Well, he's been kind of running scared. Isn't he been supposed to be on the last couple of them?
I've reached out, and I mean, he's a busy guy,
Tell him we'll get him a pizza.
He's making the towns. He's a busy guy, but we're still having so much fun on social media with people. People love that pizza story. They don't believe it. They don't believe that he could eat 2 pizzas a night. We might have to have a live demonstration here on the demo pod. You guys,
when he's on the podcast, we should have one delivered to him during the podcast.
There you go. Just Pizza Hut or Domino's? Which was the one that he liked better?
Domino's.
Yeah. It's funny in some of these towns too, like New York, Chicago, Boston. I'll never understand how Pizza Hut or Domino's survives. Like, you're in towns that are known for their authentic pizza. Like, what are you doing?
Well, he's getting it delivered in 30 minutes or less and gets it free.
I could just picture him talking over the match, just like folding over. Yeah, all right, okay. Drop down, get up, shoulder block. It's just great. Great stuff. Do you guys have anything coming up that you want to plug?
Well, they have them check out the page there, all of our appearances. We're going to be in
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis at the WrestleCon. And
the next week we're in Salt Lake City.
Yep. I can't keep track of it. I have to look at my calendar as well.
Bill has to go on axandsmash.com just to
That's right.
just to keep track of what's going on. But yeah, axandsmash.com. There's so much. It really has become a great hub. Our producer for this podcast, Dan, has been the webmaster of the axandsmash.com website. He's done a phenomenal job. It's up to date. Anything that you need to find, like I said, merchandise, submit your questions for this podcast, but most importantly, the appearances, because, I met these guys in 2018 through my friend Tommy Fierro, and it spawned onto this, the friendship based out of that. When you go and see these guys live, it's an experience that's really very different than a lot of the other guys that you get to meet. And a lot of those guys are great too, but these guys really do go the extra mile for their fans. So find out where they're going to be and make yourself available to go check them out. axandsmash.com. Make sure you also subscribe, comment, like, share. Please share the YouTube page for DemoPod all over the place. Guys, this has been a lot of fun. I'll see you real soon.
Thank you, my friend.
Yeah, Ryan, great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you, Bill. Thank you.